Hey there, Hoops fans. How you doing? It's your boy, Jonathan Macri, with you, and with my co-host here, Adam Taylor. What's up, Adam?
Namaste. How's everybody doing today?
Doing good. So we're coming at you courtesy of Odds Checker US, actually, because Odds Checker is all over the world. They are one of the premier wagering sites, I guess. Would that be the way to say it? Yeah, they have asked us so kindly, myself and Adam here, to come on and talk a little NBA basketball. We were joking around with some possible names for whatever this is going to be. Adam, do you want to say the name that you came up with?
I think it should be What Are the Odds?
I think it should be What Are the Odds?
I feel empowered by this. I do.
What are the odds that the two of us would find ourselves back here yet again? This is, I think, third time is the charm, because we've given a couple pods a shot. Not that we haven't had a blast doing them, but schedules being what they are. But we're giving it another go round. So here's the deal: we are going to be coming at you over the next several weeks, talking about the NBA playoffs, and if there is an opportunity to comment on a wager or a prop bet or something of that nature, which looks interesting, well, we will let you know that, won't we, Adam?
We will indeed.
We will indeed. So let's get right into it. So we are, full disclosure, we're recording this on the Friday before the playoffs actually begin. So not only have none of the game ones been taken or have taken place yet, but Memphis Golden State has not taken place. So we will not be talking too much about the 1-8 matchup in the West, but that still leaves 7 other matchups to spend a lot of time on. And we definitely have some thoughts and opinions on those. I know which series that I would like. Well, let me turn it to you. What series would you like to start with?
Well, Mr. Macri, as people can see in the background, there is a large amount of Knicks memorabilia. And the Knicks are in the playoffs.
They are in the playoffs.
It's like Halley's Comet once every 45 to 50 years. I feel like we need to at least address this first, because we don't know if we'll ever get the chance to do it again, whether that be for Odds Checker or for ESPN, whoever wants to give us a shot, right?
Talk about Knicks playoff basketball. Yeah.
So I want to start there, man. So first of all, congratulations. I think what you guys have done this year has been absolutely wonderful. I genuinely believe you've been behind most of the locker room motivation.
Well, I actually think you deserve credit, because we potted together before the Knicks went and won. I believe it was their last 3 games at home. I think that's when we had our pod. So all credit to you for making this happen. I have spoken a lot about the Knicks' chances in this series. I think this is going to be, in short, I think this is going to be a really difficult series. I have looked at it 10 ways from Sunday. I cannot, for the life of me, come up with an argument as to why the Knicks are going to steamroll the Hawks in this series. The Hawks are really good. The Knicks are by no means a perfect team. I think the thing that I'm kind of wondering about the most is, are there, and we could say the same thing about every series, are there tricks that Tibbs has not yet pulled out of his bag that where it's going to be game one or be like, oh my goodness, where has this been? But I don't know. For example, Trae Young is on the basketball court. Trae Young is someone that can be taken advantage of if you have the right personnel. We have someone who is in the running for 6th man of the year that has some experience bullying smaller guards and taking them into the post when he gets an opportunity to do so. I'm talking, of course, about Derrick Rose. Do we see them trying to target Trae Young? I don't know. But that's my biggest thing, is I'm wondering, what are the unknowns that we haven't seen yet that, a good coach like Tibbs is going to pull out? What are you looking for with this series?
Yeah, for me, I think it's all going to come down to how good New York have been defensively and being able to find that continuity through the postseason. So, look, man, when you're looking at a team like Atlanta, and I remember one of your biggest concerns with Atlanta coming into the season was the amount of mouths they had to feed and the amount of touches required to get everybody involved in the game.
100%.
I think that Lloyd Pierce struggled to figure that out. I think Nate McMillan's done a better job of finding that equilibrium. And
helped by injuries, by the way.
yeah.
This is one of those situations where it's like guys not being healthy at the same time, you could argue has actually been a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I've said all for the last few weeks is this was the worst season in the world to have a top-heavy roster.
Yeah.
Depth is what's kind of won out this year. I genuinely believe that New York's defense and the fact that, like you say, you can pick on Trae Young. I think you can pick on Gallo a little bit as well if you want to try and get some mismatches and beat him off the dribble. He's aging, his mobility isn't really there. So there's definitely areas to exploit, but it's how good your defense has been. The fact that you're, I think you're first in the league in limiting 3-point conversion. So
Yes.
you're not limiting the attempts, but you're actually limiting them from falling through the bucket. So, you can shoot as much as you want, but if it's not going in,
which is the thing that everybody has been saying all season is going to fall back down to earth, and it hasn't yet. And it's been 72 games, and I have no reason to think it's going to now. They compete. They may, as Tibbs would say, they make multiple efforts to get out on these 3-point shooters. I'm not as concerned about that. When you talk about the defense, I'm more concerned about Clint Capella and the fact that the Knicks, with Mitchell Robinson hurt, who I know you like Mitch a lot, don't really have anyone to throw at Capella to really slow him. And not that Capella is like a post-up guy, but just on these pick and rolls with Trae Young. And then you look at the fact that, well, New York is very stout in the middle of their defense in terms of the wings, right? Bullock, RJ, Randall has been very good defensively. Noel, for as many highlight plays as he has his limitations, and they really don't have that stopper defensive guard. I mean, Rose, quickly, we don't need to talk about Elfrid Payton. But for all those reasons, it's like you're looking at some of the wagers that are available for this series. There's none that like jump out to me as being like super, super obvious, other than for me, plus 175 that the series goes 7 games, I think is pretty good value. And if you believe that the Knicks really do have what it takes, to me, you could get, I think it's plus 450 on the Knicks in 7. And even if you wanted to split, like I'm looking at this series, there are some series I think, maybe it's a sweep, maybe it goes 5 games. There's no way I could imagine this series going anything less than 6 games. And you could get plus 450 Knicks in 6, plus 450 Knicks in 7. Split the difference, bet them both if you really think the Knicks are going to win. But again, that's, the Hawks are a really good team. Anything stand out to you for this?
For me, I've kind of looked at it as who's going to have the most attention put on them. So in that sense, when you're looking at points leaders for the entire series, I think Trae Young is always going to be your most obvious bet. But coming up against a team with the defense of New York, one thing I will say before I go into the prop bet is I think if New York want to really make a run at this and make it more than a competitive series and actually take it by the scruff of the neck, they wouldn't be too far wrong looking at Miami's inverted zone that they ran last year in the playoffs due to the length. And that would be the way that you could limit Capella, because he'd have to deal with the 3 bigs at the initial point of the pick and roll rather than when he's already downhill. So I think that could be an interesting way to limit him. But I do like, as a long shot, obviously you need to have some that, they make you feel a bit good if they hit, the little Kemba shuffle.
Just for fun.
Yeah, dude. I like Bogan Bogdanovic at plus 5,000 to leave the series in points.
That's not crazy.
No, because Julius Randle's going to have a ton of attention on him. Trae Young, as I've just said, is going to have a bunch of attention on him. And Bogdanovic is just a lights out scorer. There's a world where they have to rely on his floor spacing to generate offense, secondary offense for Trae Young.
The values there, I would just be worried about. He's a guy that I could see having a couple single-digit scoring games in the series, whereas you're not going to get that with Randall. You're not going to get that with Trae Young. I almost like to me, Capella at I think plus 20,000. Like to me, that's almost more interesting because again, I don't know that the Knicks have a great answer for him, but we'll see. Maybe if the Knicks pulled out a zone in the series, I would have a lot of respect for them.
If Bogdanovic finishes this series as points leader, I expect to have the nickname Hawkeye anointed to me.
I think we could do that. So do you, okay. You went that way. I want to take us out west before we bring it back east to your Celtics. I find personally, and we've spent a lot of time talking about the Mavs, and Luka, and some other people on their team. I think the Clippers Mavericks series is fascinating because I think everybody just. It seems like there's two schools of thought right now in the NBA Twitter sphere, or maybe that's Twitter sphere, but like people who get paid to talk about this stuff. Everybody's sleeping on the Clippers, and like they went through what they went through last year. They have a better coach, a coach who understands the players better. This, that, and the other thing. We're sleeping on them. They should be the favorite, the clear favorite to come out of the West, if not win the whole thing. And then the other side of the coin, which I think is getting less attention, is like Luka's Luka, and Luka's really good. And the Mavs started off the year 8-14, and Knick fans everywhere, myself included, were having a little opening the old champagne bottles a little too early because we own their draft pick. And then from that point forward, they showed us what they really are, and they were injured. Porzingis didn't have a good year, and they still ended up where they ended up. I don't know. This series really interests me, and if this was like 2-2 after 4 games, would you be surprised in the least? Because I wouldn't.
No, not at all. The question that I asked myself, and I went back and forth on this for a while, once I saw that the Clippers and the Mavs were going to be matching up, and you could see it happening. But who is the best player in that series?
See, I think it's Luka.
You see, now I do too, but there was a part of me that felt like I was disrespecting Kawhi for that because Kawhi is so good.
I mentioned this on my pod, I think, the other day. You remember when, so Larry Bird had won 3 MVPs. I believe you know something of Mr. Bird. And then they played the Jordans, I think it was his second year, Bulls in the playoffs. And, that's when we got that's God disguised as Michael Jordan quote after Jordan put up 63. There was a changing of the guard there where a guy who was one of the greatest players in the game looked at that guy and was like, oh, okay, he's playing a different sport. And I feel like, are we at the end of this series going to get Kawhi looking at Luka being like, man, I tried. I couldn't do anything against that guy. I don't know.
This is where I've kind of been going backwards and forwards because early in the playoffs, I always feel like the team with the best individual talent generally has the best opportunity to win.
Usually, yeah.
Obviously, the deeper you get, the more it becomes collective rather than individual. But this is a matchup I could easily envision being a second round or a conference finals matchup at the same point, just because of the talent.
Sure.
I think that genuinely, I do think that this is going to be 1 year too early for the Mavs. I like Jalen Brunson. I'm all right with Porzingis.
I do too.
I think Hardaway Jr.'s been solid since he moved out to Dallas, but I just think that there's so much talent and depth on that Clippers roster that
there is.
It's disingenuous to look past them, even though Dallas have had so many injury issues, and I think Rick Carlisle's a fantastic coach. I just don't think it's this year. I think it's 1 year too soon for this team.
You could get even money on Doncic as the leading scorer in the series, which I think is a little crazy because if you look at the leading scorer props for a lot of the other series, you're under that. You're under even odds. The other one that I would kind of look at is like if you want to put your money where your mouth is and you think Dallas could win the series, get plus 900 Dallas and 7. Plus 900 Dallas and 7. What I meant to say was plus 1,000 Dallas and 6, which maybe is a little bit much, but you figure maybe they can win it at home. I don't know. That's probably a little aggressive for me. I think the way I would go it if I was going to place a series bet, Clippers and 7 is plus 400. Kind of like that. I would not be surprised at all. Because think about it. If you think that the series will start out 2-2, which I really do think the series is going to start out 2-2, you figure at that point it's probably going to get to 7 games, right? I don't know.
I've got it wrote down that I've got Dallas, if they're going to surprise everybody, taking them in a game 7 at plus 900 is probably your best option.
It's an interesting series. I like it. Okay, let's talk about them. Your Boston Celtics did not perhaps have the series the season. They haven't yet not had the series. Maybe they will not have the series, but they have not had the season that many expected them to. They obviously play the Nets. The Nets are allegedly healthy. It feels wrong to predict a steamrolling here because of like there is Celtic pride, right? That's a thing, right, Adam? That's a Celtic pride is a thing.
Before this year, yeah, this year it's been
Well, but
Celtics negativity, dude.
So, but that doesn't go. But I mean, in all seriousness, that doesn't disappear in a year.
No, I
Doesn't
think that the fans are going to help, but the Jaylen Brown injury for me,
huge,
yeah,
massive.
ridiculously big. I don't know if you saw what I tweeted out earlier. I can't. Well, it was a retweet, and I just put my thoughts on top of it. In Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, the Celtics have 2 of the top 5 guys for coast to coast buckets this year, and the Celtics, Tatum and then Brown.
Yeah.
Just for argument's sake, Giannis led the league in coast to coast buckets.
That makes sense.
Makes sense. But the opportunities to play faster and to get some runouts on the nets and put pressure on their really, really bad defense has just been halved, because now you're relying on Tatum, and Tatum's going to have more playmaking responsibilities and this and that. I just think that it's a step to, it's again, for me, this just isn't the best matchup for Boston. I think there's a world where you can do it. You got to punch these guys in the mouth early.
I just don't like where's the formula. And I mean, and this is a larger conversation about, and I guess we could talk about it really briefly. Like, what's the formula for beating the Nets? Like, why does it not make sense to just jump on the Nets to win the whole thing? Which you could still, you could get decent odds. I'll look them up right now, actually, as we're talking.
So my best idea so far, if you watch the way the Celtics played the Wizards in that playing game and the way they limited Russell Westbrook's playmaking ability and shot creation ability,
you
need to do that on James Harden from the get-go. And then you need to decide which one of KD or Kyrie you're willing to let beat you and lock the other guy down. But then you've got Joe Harris, Blake Griffin. There's just too much depth.
It's funny, the Griffin thing. Everybody laughed at how big of a deal, people who haven't watched the NBA in the last 5 years were making it. And at the same time, but I think that was an extension because he does make a difference for them. And he's another guy.
Huge.
Like Jeff Green, another guy. We haven't even mentioned Bruce Brown, another, like they've assembled a really good team.
Mike James is no joke, dude.
Yeah, Mike James, listen, 5 minutes off the bench, could give you a couple buckets. I just, I'm staring at their okay, so their odds to win the whole thing is essentially 2.5 to 1. Boy, like, is it? Part of me feels like if they smell blood in the water, maybe they like a Boston sweep, or excuse me, a Brooklyn sweep. It's plus 275. That's like, I'm getting almost 3 to 1.
I've got it as a gentleman's sweep. I think Boston still won, just out of that pride that you're talking about. But honestly, a sweep to me just sounds so likely.
Does it really?
Yeah, honestly.
You've covered the team all year, so you would know better than me.
Honestly, the way the team has been and how inconsistent they've been and how they haven't responded to adversity all year.
But they did put up a really nice effort against the Wizards in the playing game. They did actually on the last.
Let's be fair, though. Let's be fair. It's the Wizards.
Well, yes, I get that. But even on the last day of the season, when they played us, when they played the Knicks, it was your C squad, and there was pride there. Those guys went out and they played hard. They played the way they were supposed to play. It wasn't, Knicks didn't play.
See, so I spoke about that. So my outlook on that was everyone on the floor at that moment, that C team, was either playing for their NBA future,
no, that's true. Yeah.
Or they were playing for rotation minutes. So they weren't playing with pride for the Celtics.
That's fair.
A lot of individual agendas were on the market there.
Scoring leaders for the series, you get more better than 10 to 1 on Harden, which is interesting.
I'm taking Hawkeye again and going Kemba Walker.
Wow.
Yeah. See, one fact plus 1100 because there's going to be dude.
It's not that crazy. It's not that crazy.
Yeah. No, I've got a feeling this is where Kemba shows up.
Okay. No, it's not nuts. All right, let's move to another one. I believe it is. Is it your? You pick the next one. We'll go from there.
I want to talk about the Lakers, dude.
Why would a Celtics person who writes about the Celtics ever want to talk about the Lakers? Why would you want to do this to yourself?
Because they interest me. They perplex me.
I don't know. So they look like shit. I don't. Am I allowed to curse on here? I don't even know.
I don't know. I don't know.
Sorry about that if I'm not. They did not look good for a half. against the Warriors, and this may be moot after they come out and they smoke the Suns in the first game of the series. But I don't know. Is like we all just expect the switch to be there, right? And for them to just click on, right? And
do you know what it is for me? They've been injured for most of the year. They've like either not had LeBron, not had AD, not had.
But so have the Nets. We didn't think that was a problem with. I don't personally think that's a big issue with the Nets, but
no. But what I'm alluding to is even with all those injuries, they still led the league in defense. So what happens when you add those pieces back? That was where I was getting to.
That's a great point.
They're 24th in the league in scoring. That's evidently completely skewed.
But do we really think they're not going to be able to like?
But this is what I'm saying. It's all the like when you look at the injuries, they've still managed to lead the league in defense. Yeah. And their offense is only going to get better now that Bron and AD are back, and as they start to get more of a rhythm again. I just think that this is why they perplex me, because they've basically played possum all year, and now they're about to, like hunger, it's going to strike.
If I knew for sure. And listen, this is not anything revelatory here. If anybody knew for sure that they were going to see the version of LeBron that we were accustomed to seeing for the last, how many years? I lose track at this point, 16, 17 years. And you look at Lakers minus 150, you're like, okay, so we know, like, do we really think LeBron James and Anthony Davis are going to get eliminated in the first round of the playoffs? And like, those are the odds we're getting. But then I feel like there's other people who are going to look at this and like, wait a minute, you're giving me odds on the 2 seed here against a team that looked like crap and wouldn't have beaten the Warriors had the Warriors not thrown the ball all over the court in the beginning of the third quarter and like basically blew that game. I probably shouldn't say this on a betting podcast, but to me, this series is a big stay away. Unless you're just like, there's 70 odd years of NBA history that tell us when you put the best player or a couple of the best players in the league on the court for the same team at the same time, and they're playing a team that doesn't have another one or two of the best players in the league, like, don't overthink it. So I don't know.
For me, I like +5. I like. Sorry. So I like 5.
So
I like 5 games.
More than 5 games.
Yeah, 4 or 5 games. I see it going 5. I see it being a gentleman's sweep at +250. That's my best option here.
See, I wouldn't do that. You could tell me the Lakers 1-4. You could tell me the Lakers 1-7, and I have zero conviction about which of those two things I believe more to be.
Oh,
true.
For real?
None whatsoever. I actually, part of me actually thinks this will be a longer series.
You see, I've got a feeling they're just going to make light work of Phoenix, because the first thing I thought when I saw this happen was like, man, Phoenix had like an amazing year. We saw all the jokes, post a picture of the last time the Suns were in the playoffs, and now they've just come into a series where they're candidates to get swept early. I think the Suns have been great, but I just don't think they've got the size to combat what the Lakers can do.
Well, that's interesting because Zach Lowe and David Thorpe were talking about this on Zach's pod about the Suns are going to trot out a rather small team after DeAndre Ayton because of Crowder and Mikal Bridges in the starting lineup, probably, unless they switch it up. I'm more in line with like, it's kind of like Tibbs with the Knicks, right? You have such an advantage in the regular season because he has the guys so ready and so amped up to play. Similar with Chris Paul, you can't take a night off if you're playing on Chris Paul's team. You have to bring it every night, and the Suns never took any nights off. I wonder if that's disrespectful to that team. Here's the last thing we'll say. They beat you in a way that is not over the top in your face, where, when you lose to, like, for me at least this season, like watching when Denver gets going, right? Or watching when Brooklyn gets going, like when those teams really get after it, you're like, holy crap, no one's going to beat these teams. These guys are unstoppable. I don't feel like the Suns, maybe not that they don't have that gear, but it never looks like, it's like deceptive. Like you might be down by 25, but you're still asking yourself, like, how are we down by 25 right now?
Yeah, and it's a very methodical.
It is. That's
offense.
A great word.
It's very methodical.
That's a great word to describe Chris Paul.
Yeah, to be fair, I just think that methodical's great and methodical works, and it's going to get you great seeding. It's going to generally, if you're, in a season that just hasn't been put through a blender and thrown into God knows where hellfire, then you don't end up with the Lakers in the first series and you can go on a deep run. But I just think that arrested LeBron, arrested AD, and the depth and size that the Lakers have, I think that they're just going to want to make light work of them. And unfortunately, I think where you're saying we're not sure if Phoenix have that switch to another gear, I think the Lakers have 2 or 3 gears they can kind of get through.
It's not crazy. Again, considering just how badly they played the other night, you could look at that 2 ways. So,
for the record, I really don't like the Lakers as a franchise. So me being very talking about them in this manner means I genuinely believe this.
No, I know. Okay, let's hit a couple other ones real quick. We of course, as the 2 of us are famous for doing, have gone already over our allotted time. I don't know that, like I said, we weren't going to talk about the Jazz because we don't know as of right now who they're playing yet. I don't know what really needs to be said about Sixers Wizards, other than, it wouldn't shock me if the Wizards stole a couple games of that series because I just don't know that I trust Philly yet. Do you trust Philly? I feel like I want to trust Philly. I don't trust Philly though.
I think Philly need to trust Thibault in that series just because of the youth and speed and defense that he brings. And if they want any, I think that Thibault needs to get a minutes increase just to help Philly kind of deal with the onslaught of transition baskets they're going to have to face.
So again, thinking long term on the playoffs, like, isn't their ability to put Thibault and Simmons and Embiid on the court at the same time, like, doesn't it make too much sense that that's the way they beat the Nets if assuming they get to the Eastern Conference Finals? Because man,
no team matches up with Brooklyn better than Philadelphia, in my opinion.
Like, that's to me why, if you're looking at longer term wagers, the fact that you could get 15-2, I think right now on the Sixers to win the whole thing. Like, put it this way, look, I would love nothing more than for the Knicks to shock the world to make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. Do I think that that's likely to happen? No, I don't. So if you think the Sixers are getting to the East Finals, and if you think that they can beat Brooklyn, do you really think if they beat Brooklyn and make it to the finals, they're going to lose in the finals? To me, it's like it's almost like the 15-2 is like, do you think they can beat Brooklyn? And I don't. To your point, I'm very curious to see how much they deploy Thibault just as a way to, test the waters.
It's how you stymie guys, especially you know that to beat Brooklyn, you need to deal with Harden as a facilitator. Yes. So asking Thibault to deal with one of the best transition facilitators in the league in Russell Westbrook, is really good, a good barometer to see how he's going to deal with Harden. Now, obviously, Harden's a huge upgrade over Westbrook in terms of self-creation off the bounce.
Yes, he is, but dealing with Westbrook, look, say what you want about, I'm not a fan of his game, and he makes a lot of stupid mistakes. Still being able to stay in front of that dude and contain him.
Oh man, that's a challenge, dude.
It's a challenge.
I do want to say as well, I don't think any team matches up with Brooklyn better than Philly. You're right. That is in the Eastern Conference. I do think that Lakers, again, because of their size and length, those 2 teams are the guys that are going to match up great. But I think Philly, I genuinely think taking a run at Philly to come out of the East isn't bad money. No. However, there's another team in the East that has been slept on, that has been the Clippers of the East, and that's the Bucks, dude. And I think the Milwaukee Bucks have been disrespected all season, and they've been really solid.
So I was looking at that series too. We'll do it real quick. It's the I not only do I like the Bucks in that series, I think if there's a chance that we're all sitting here a week and a half from now, and again, this may look silly after this weekend, or maybe not, because I could even see them losing game 1 and then being able to do this. Like, they should wipe the floor with Miami. I know that may be sacrilegious and disrespectful to the Heat culture and what Miami has built and Jimmy Butler and the whole thing, but like, come on, the Bucks should win this series easily, right?
You'd expect so, right? I mean, but Miami are another team that have had their fair share of injuries, and
But they're
the
healthy now and they're shooting it
yeah,
well now.
Jimmy
They're
Butler's
scoring well
good, but
now.
at the end of the day, you go again. It's the best player in a series this early in the playoffs. Generally, they should prevail. And Drew Holiday and Bryn Forbes have added some great space. And Bobby Portis, man, I don't know what's happened to this dude. He's turned from like
Well,
absolute
listen,
joke in New York, and he's gone
because he
Hawk, dude.
because he eliminated all of the nonsense from his game. He just does what he's told to do. Very simple. Stand out there, shoot your threes, hit hopefully a decent number of your threes. I like you, big Bryn Forbes fan. I saw his name because I was looking at like since January something or other, and for him it's probably the whole year because I was sorting stats for Barrett. Like certain amount of attempts, who has the highest conversion rate for threes in the league, and Forbes is right up there. Like the dude just nails everything.
Oh, dude, I think Forbes is fantastic. Honestly, I think he was like such a low key pickup for them
Yeah,
because there was so much fanfare around obtaining Drew Holiday, and then Bryn Forbes kind of came in under the radar, and
yeah.
the spacing he gives in the room he affords someone like Giannis downhill. It's crazy, dude. I think that Bam is one of the better options to guard Giannis,
Yeah, no, of
maybe,
course. Yeah.
but there's just too much there. I just think there's too much in the tank. But then again, Miami, to me, they have the best coach in the league right now, the most
Not
innovative
right
coaching.
now. He's the best coach in the league.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know, but you know, they're the
Yeah.
most innovative. I think there's a world where they could, and Budenholzer is notoriously bad at adjusting in the playoffs. So there is a world where it could go the other way and Miami come through. I actually took a little look at the numbers here. I do like Milwaukee in 7 at plus 400.
I like Milwaukee in 5.
You like them in 5?
I like them in 5. But
Oh
again,
wow!
I don't love the
Now we're
value
talking
there.
disrespect.
I don't love the value there. I actually honestly I'm not crazy about any of the value in this series. Giannis to lead the series is points. It's like you're paying $6 to win a buck. And so that's probably not where it's at. Middleton
Yeah.
plus 1,200 to lead the series in scoring. I actually don't hate that, even though he hasn't had not that he's had a bad year, but he hasn't had, I think, a customary Chris Middleton year. It's an interesting series, but I think I like Milwaukee. And then the only one we haven't talked about is Denver-Portland. I'm excited to see what happens. I think, the fact that the winner of the series is going to have to face the winner of Phoenix and LA. It's like it takes some of the excitement away, I think, from the series because you figure whoever emerges from that Los Angeles Phoenix series is going to probably win this. But then that makes me think we're not giving proper respect to the guy who should be the unanimous MVP this year in Jokic. And like, if I'm looking at, again, I don't, this is not the series that I probably am going to bet on, but just longer term odds. You get 30-1 odds on the Nuggets to win the whole damn thing. Which
That's still if Jamal Murray wasn't out, dude. I think
yeah, but that's why they're 30-1 and
Yeah, I
not
get
like
that.
3-1, because I think if Jamal Murray was healthy,
they're
I
one of the
could
favorites.
I said this. I would have picked them just because I think they were playing so well. But like, man, I know like Barton's not really healthy either, but Jokic is.
It's
And
just
Porter,
something different. Yeah, the Porter's been fantastic this year.
and
So much fun to watch.
They got Gordon. It's like it's a deep team. They got different guys to throw out there. I don't know.
No love for Carmelo Anthony. No love for your former Nick coming off
I'm
the
not
bench
saying I
and
have
just
no
lighting
love
dudes
for
up.
him. I don't think this is the series for him. I don't think this is the series for Enes Kanter, former Knick, former Celtic.
No series is the series for Enes Kanter.
Well, I was trying to be kind.
Man,
you get plus 1,400 for a Denver sweep, and it's not like we haven't seen Portland swept out of the playoffs before.
Do you think so how many games do you think this goes? I've got it going to 6 at plus 190.
Again, you could tell me the series the only thing that would shock me is if Portland won this in like 4 or 5 games. I think if you told me Portland 6, Portland 7, Denver 6, Denver 7, I think there's a possibility Denver just wipes the floor with Portland.
Nurkic makes this such an interesting matchup between Jokic and Nurkic.
Yeah, but
just for that size, dude. Just for like, you know, Jokic is slower and he
I
likes
just
to
don't.
be.
I don't think you could stop Jokic. I think he's.
Tell that to Grant Williams, dude. Grant Williams played Jokic off the floor the other week.
I'll have to go back and watch that tape. Okay.
Seriously.
I listen. Maybe I'm giving him too much credit. I've seen
dude,
that.
Jokic was on the start of a back-to-back. He got sat. But seriously, watch that game because you'll see.
I will. I don't know. I'm excited to see what Denver could still do, and I have a funny feeling if there's one team that we don't think we're going to be talking about coming out of round one, I would put my money on Denver. That's just my 2 cents.
If we look back to last year and how many times they looked like they were dead in the water and then found a way to come back and win the series, you just cannot write Denver off at all. They have that resiliency and that switch that they can kind of flip. Obviously, Jamal Murray was a huge part of that, but I think Aaron Gordon fills some of that scoring for you. That now Murray's gone down, it's not the same type of scoring, and it's a completely different version of offense you need to run. But Denver is still scary, dude. I'm not joking when I say Denver are a team that could really give someone nightmares.
They're good enough. All right, this was fun. So everybody listening, if you want to go, test your luck on any of this stuff, just go to oddschecker.com. /US if you are indeed listening to this in the United States of America. But yeah, just oddschecker.com. And then you could also follow me and Adam. I'm at JC Macri NBA. Adam, your Twitter is?
I'm offended. At Adam Taylor NBA.
I was about to say, I think it's Adam Taylor NBA, right?
Yes, it is, sir. Good, sir.
We've made that joke before.
Yes.
All right. On that note, everybody enjoy the playoffs, and we will be back with you in a week. Adios.